The first proof arrived from a man who wasn't even part of my marriage. It was 11:52 p.m. on a Thursday in early November when my phone lit up on the nightstand. I was half asleep, the kind of sleep that comes in shallow waves when you've spent all day pretending you're fine. The text was from my next-door neighbor, Ray Porter. Ray is 70, retired, and the kind of person who still calls people sir when he's angry. He lives alone, keeps his lawn perfect, and watches the street like it's his job. I used to tease him about it. He used to shrug and say, "Somebody has to." His message was short. "Mark, I thought you should see this." A video file followed. I tapped it, expecting to watch a raccoon knock over his trash cans again. Instead, I watched my wife walk up my driveway at 11:37 p.m. with a man I'd never seen before. Elaine, my Elaine, was wearing a long camel coat and the red scarf she always saved for special evenings. She was laughing at something the man said. His hand touched the small of her back in a way that looked practiced. They stopped under the porch light. She lifted her face toward him. He leaned down. They kissed. Not a quick, guilty kiss, a comfortable one. Then she guided him into my garage like she belonged to him, too. The camera angle was wide, clear, unforgiving. I watched the video twice, then a third time hoping I'd find a trick of light, a bad angle, an explanation that didn't punch me in the chest. There wasn't one. The timestamp was real. The faces were real. The kiss was real. My mouth went dry. I sat up in bed and looked at the dim outline of Elaine beside me. She was in her usual position, on her side, back to me, hair spread on the pillow like a dark wave. Breathing steady. At least, I thought it was Elaine. Then I noticed the empty space on her side. The pillow wasn't warm. Elaine wasn't in bed. I swung my legs out, heart hammering, and padded down the hallway in socks. Her closet door was slightly open. Her camel coat was missing. From downstairs, the faint glow of the TV flickered against the living room wall. No sound, just light. I walked down the stairs and found the couch empty, the front door deadbolted, the kitchen clean. Elaine was not in my house, but the video showed her walking into my garage. I stood in the darkness, staring at the staircase, and realized something that made my skin prickle. If she was here, she'd come in after I went to sleep. If she was here, she'd left again. And if she could do that, she'd been doing it for a while. My name is Mark Dalton. I'm 59 years old. I live in a quiet neighborhood outside Minneapolis, in the same house my wife and I bought 21 years ago when we thought we were building something permanent. I worked in corporate operations for 3 decades. I'm the kind of man who loves schedules, checklists, and receipts. I don't do drama. I do systems. Which is why, standing in my kitchen at midnight, the first thing I did was not scream. I wrote down the timestamp. 11:37 p.m. Thursday. Unknown man. Kiss. Garage entry. Then I called Ray. He answered on the second ring, voice low. "You see it?" "I see it," I said. My voice sounded too calm to be mine. Ray exhaled. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but my doorbell camera caught it. I figured, "You'd want to know." "Thank you," I said, and meant it. Ray hesitated. "You want me to send the original file? The unedited one?" "Yes," I said. "Please." "I'll email it," he replied. "And Mark, be careful. People act strange when they think they're losing something." I stared at the dark window above my sink. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I'm starting to understand that." When I ended the call, my phone buzzed again. A text from Elaine. "Running late. Don't wait up. Love you." The words were so normal I almost laughed. I replied with one word. "Okay." Then I sat at the kitchen table, opened my laptop, and did what I always do when the world stops making sense. I pulled up the numbers. Elaine came home at 1:18 a.m. She slipped in quietly, as if sneaking past a sleeping teenager. I heard the garage door, then soft footsteps. She froze in the hallway when she saw the light in the kitchen. "Mark?" she whispered. I didn't look up from my laptop. "Hey," she blinked, adjusting to the light. "Why are you up?" "Couldn't sleep," I said, keeping my voice flat. She walked into the kitchen, cheeks flushed from cold air, hair slightly wind-tossed. She smelled like perfume and outdoor wind and something else. Something sharp, like hotel soap. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Sure," I said. Elaine studied me, trying to read my face. She'd always been good at that. She could spot my irritation before I spoke, my stress before I admitted it, my hesitation before I took a step. Tonight, I kept my expression blank. She reached for a glass, filled it with water, and drank as if she'd just come home from grocery shopping. "Dana's party ran long," she said casually, like she was filing a report. "You know how my sister is." Dana's party. Dana lived in St. Paul and had posted photos earlier that evening. Family photos, wine glasses, a cake. Elaine wasn't in any of them. I nodded. "Sounds fun." Elaine's eyebrows lifted. "You're being weird." I looked up at her. "Am I?" She hesitated, then smiled. A small smile that had smoothed over so many arguments. "I'm tired," she said. "Can we not do this?" "Do what?" I asked. She waved a hand. "Whatever this is, your vibe, it's tense." I held her gaze for a second longer than normal. Then I closed my laptop. "Go to bed," I said. Elaine stared at me, then turned and headed upstairs. I waited until I heard the bedroom door close. Then I reopened my laptop and started checking everything I'd ignored for years. Our bank statements, our credit cards, our home equity account, our email receipts. Not because I suddenly wanted revenge, because the video told me one thing clearly. Elaine was living a life I didn't know about, and hidden lives always leave a paper trail. By 3:40 a.m., I had found the first crack, a payment labeled North Loop Storage, $189 monthly, recurring. We didn't have a storage unit. Then, a ParkSmart Garage Pass, $210 monthly. We didn't have a downtown garage pass. Then, buried between normal bills, a series of transfers. Ridgeway Consulting, $4,800. Ridgeway Consulting, $4,800. Ridgeway Consulting, $4,800. Every month. I searched the email account for Ridgeway. A receipt popped up. Invoice number 1127, Consulting Services, Confidential Client Support. Client Support. My stomach tightened. I clicked the PDF. The invoice wasn't detailed, just a logo, a dollar amount, and a mailing address. Then I noticed something worse. A credit inquiry alert from a week earlier. New credit account opened. Issuer, a bank we didn't use. Account type, personal line of credit. Authorized signature, Mark Dalton. My signature. I hadn't opened a line of credit. The room seemed to tilt. I sat back and pressed my fingers to my temple, forcing myself to breathe. The video was betrayal. The credit line was danger. And danger, unlike betrayal, could destroy more than feelings. I didn't go upstairs and wake her. I didn't storm into the bedroom with the lease, the inquiry alert, and Ray's video like a prosecutor. Because I've spent my whole career watching what happens when people panic. In operations, panic is how you sign the wrong contract, send the wrong email, or say the one thing that gets quoted for years. In divorce, panic is how you end up in handcuffs with your own kid watching. So I gave myself a rule before the sun came up. No scenes, no shouting, no unrecorded conversations, no decisions made while my heart was sprinting. I opened a blank document on my laptop and typed a header. What I know. What I can prove. Under it, I listed facts like I was writing an incident report. Video, Elaine plus unknown man, 11:37 p.m., kiss, garage entry. Source, Ray Porter, doorbell camera. Text, Elaine, running late, Sent 11:52 p.m. Storage unit payment. North Loop Storage, recurring. Ridgeway Consulting invoices. Credit inquiry. New personal line of credit. Issuer unknown. Signature, Mark Dalton, not authorized. Then I opened a second page titled, What I Need to Protect. Ben's stability. Tess's sanity. The house. My credit. My ability to keep a job, keep health insurance, keep normal. The act of typing steadied me. It reminded me that chaos can be organized. At 4:12 a.m., I emailed myself a copy of Ray's video and backed it up twice. One drive in my office, one in a fireproof box in the basement. At 4:40 a.m., I changed passwords on every major account and enabled two-factor authentication with my phone only. At 5:05 a.m., I froze my credit with all 3 bureaus. At 5:20 a.m., I set an appointment with the bank for the earliest possible fraud consult. None of it fixed what I felt. But it built walls around what I could lose. When I finally closed the laptop, I realized the house was still dark, still quiet, still pretending nothing had changed. That's the cruel thing about betrayal. The world doesn't react with you. You still have to make coffee. You still have to pack lunches. You still have to act like a parent while your chest feels hollow. I stood at the sink, ran cold water over my hands, and made myself a promise in the reflection of the kitchen window. Elaine can have her secret life. She will not have my life, too. At 6:30 a.m., my daughter Tess came downstairs in sweatpants and an oversized college hoodie, hair tied up in a messy knot. 19, home for a long weekend from the University of Wisconsin. She stopped when she saw me at the table. "Dad," she said, "did you pull an all-nighter?" "Something like that," I said. Tess glanced at the dark circles under my eyes. "Where's Mom?" "Sleeping," I lied because I wasn't ready to say it out loud. Tess poured coffee. "You okay?" I looked at my daughter and felt a sudden, sharp clarity. Whatever Elaine had done, Tess didn't deserve to be thrown into an emotional explosion. My son Ben didn't deserve it either. Ben was 16 and still lived with us full-time, still believed parents were supposed to be stable. I nodded. "I'm okay," I said. "Just handling something." Tess studied me the way she did when she was younger, and I told her everything was fine after a fight with Elaine. "Okay," she said slowly, but I could see she didn't believe me. That afternoon, while Tess was out with friends and Ben was at basketball practice, I drove to Ray's house. Ray opened his door before I knocked, like he'd been watching through the window. "You good?" he asked. I held up my phone. "The file you sent. I need the full resolution, for records." Ray nodded and waved me inside. His house smelled like coffee and old books. He pulled up his security camera system, clicked through menus with practiced ease. "There," he said, pointing at the screen. "Unedited, time-stamped, saved to the cloud automatically." He exported it onto a flash drive. I took it like it weighed something. Ray leaned on his counter. "You gonna confront her?" "Not yet," I said. Ray's eyebrows lifted. "Why not?" "Because I want to know what else is hidden," I replied. "And because if she thinks she's caught, she'll start deleting." Ray's mouth tightened as if he approved. "Smart." As I left, he said, "Mark, my daughter divorced a man who staged a whole scene to make her look crazy. Don't underestimate what people will do when they want to win." I paused on his porch. "What kind of scene?" Ray shook his head. "The kind that looks real on camera. The kind that gets you arrested if you react wrong." I drove home with my hands tight on the steering wheel. That evening, Elaine acted normal. She cooked dinner. She laughed at Ben's story about practice. She asked Tess about her classes like nothing in the world had shifted. And I realized something terrifying. Elaine didn't just want to cheat. She wanted to keep the life I paid for while building another one. And when someone wants 2 lives, they don't give up easily. 2 days later, the message arrived. It hit my phone at 3:58 p.m. on a Saturday, 2 days before Thanksgiving, while I was in my home office reviewing a supplier contract for a consulting client. Elaine texted, "This Thanksgiving will be just family at Dana's. You're not invited. Please don't make it awkward." A typing bubble appeared. Then, "You haven't earned a place at that table this year, Mark. Not after everything." I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. Earned. Table. Everything. It was the same language as my father used when he punished me as a kid. The same weapon. Shame disguised as standards. My hands went cold, but my mind cleared. If Elaine could disinvite me from the family table, she had already emotionally moved out. The only thing she still wanted from me was money and stability. So I replied with one sentence. "Thanks for letting me know. Effective today, I'm canceling all automatic payments that fund your lifestyle. We can discuss arrangements for the kids through attorneys." I hit send. Then I opened my banking app. I didn't cancel everything. I wasn't reckless. I was strategic. I canceled Elaine's credit card auto-pay. I canceled the country club membership. I canceled the housekeeper Elaine insisted on because people judge. I canceled streaming services and subscriptions I didn't use. I separated the joint savings into 2 accounts, moving my share into a new account under my name only. I froze my credit. For Ben's school fees and Tess's tuition, I set up direct payments from my personal account with receipts saved automatically. No cash transfers to Elaine, no reimbursements, no gray areas. When my phone started vibrating, I set it face down. Serena? No, Elaine. Call after call after call. By dinner, I had 104 missed calls. Elaine came home at 6:12 and walked into the kitchen like a hurricane. "What did you do?" she demanded, phone in hand, face flushed. I didn't raise my voice. I stopped automatic payments. "You can't just do that," she snapped. "I can," I said. "I did." Ben froze mid-sip of water. Tess's eyes widened. Elaine noticed them and forced her voice into a sugary tone. "Kids, go upstairs. Mom and Dad are talking." Ben hesitated. Tess stood, put a hand on her brother's shoulder, and guided him toward the stairs. When they were gone, Elaine's mask dropped. "You're embarrassing me," she hissed. "My card got declined at Target." I stared at her. "You disinvited me from Thanksgiving." Elaine scoffed. "Dana doesn't want your attitude. You always make holidays heavy." "Then why do you need my money for Target?" I asked. Her eyes narrowed. "This is about control." "No," I said. "This is about consequences." Elaine's jaw worked like she was chewing anger. "If you do this," she said softly, "I will tell everyone what kind of man you are." "Go ahead," I said. For a second, she looked surprised. Then she laughed, low and bitter. "You think you're the calm hero," she said. "You think people will believe you. They won't." She walked out of the kitchen and slammed the bedroom door hard enough to shake the hallway. I sat at the table, alone, listening to the house settle. Then my phone buzzed with a text from Ray. "Mark, she's at your porch." I opened the camera app I'd installed after talking to Ray. It showed my front door. Elaine was outside, in a coat, standing under the porch light like she was about to audition for a role. And beside her was the same man from the video. He hovered half in the shadows, watching. Elaine knocked, loud, dramatic. Then she raised her voice, clear enough for any neighbor to hear, and shouted, "Mark, open the door! You can't treat me like this!" The man lifted his phone. He was recording. My stomach dropped. Ray's warning flashed in my head like a siren, the kind of scene that looks real on camera, the kind that gets you arrested if you react wrong. I didn't open the door. I didn't yell back. I didn't even move. I watched through the camera as Elaine banged again, then turned her face slightly toward the man's phone and let her voice crack. "You're scaring me," she said, loud enough to be captured. "Please stop." Stop what? I hadn't said a word. The man stepped closer, still recording, and said, "Sir, calm down." I stared at the screen, heart pounding. He was speaking to an invisible version of me, a version Elaine wanted the camera to believe existed. After 3 minutes, Elaine's performance shifted. She covered her mouth like she was sobbing, then walked away quickly, dragging the man with her like a stage partner exiting a scene. Ray's camera had caught everything. So had mine. I saved the video to a folder on my laptop labeled simply documentation. The next morning, my phone buzzed with messages from people I barely knew. "Are you okay? Saw Elaine's post. That's awful. Praying for you guys." I opened Facebook. Elaine had posted a video. Not my cameras, not Ray's. Her angle. A shaky clip of her at our front door, crying, saying, "He's cutting us off. He's unstable. I'm scared for my kids." The comments were immediate. "Leave him. Call the police. You're so brave." I stared at the post until my jaw hurt. Then I did what I always do. I gathered evidence. Before I went to Diane, I went to the storage unit. Not because I wanted to snoop through Elaine's things like a jealous husband. Because storage units are where people hide whatever doesn't fit the story they're selling. North Loop Storage was a concrete building with fluorescent lights and a front desk staffed by a young guy who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. I walked in with my calm face. "Hi," I said. "I'm Mark Dalton. I need to confirm whether a unit here is being paid from a joint account. I'm not asking for access today. I need billing and a copy of the rental agreement. My attorney will follow up." The word attorney did what it always does. The young guy straightened. "I can't give you access without the leaseholder," he said. "I'm not asking for access," I repeated. "Billing documentation. Who is on the contract? Where invoices go?" He tapped at his keyboard, then frowned. "There's a unit under Elaine Dalton," he said cautiously. "But, there's also a secondary contact." "Who?" I asked, keeping my voice even. He hesitated. "Trent Mallory." The name hit like a cold splash. Trent. Not unknown man, not some faceless stranger, a name I could attach to records. I thanked him, took the billing receipt he was allowed to print, and walked out before my hands started shaking. In my car, I searched the name. Trent Mallory popped up in seconds, a consultant with a sleek LinkedIn profile, marketing buzzwords, and a company website for Ridgeway Consulting with stock photos of smiling people shaking hands. His profile picture showed the same jawline, the same haircut as the man in Ray's video. He wasn't just an affair partner. He was a vendor, a co-signer, a paper trail. Elaine didn't just cheat. Elaine hired her cheating like it was a service. I drove home and sat in the driveway for a full minute before going inside, because I could already feel the shift in my mind. This wasn't going to be solved with an apology. It was going to be solved with receipts. I called an attorney on Monday morning. Her name was Diane Alvarez. A colleague recommended her years ago when his divorce turned ugly, and he said 2 words that stayed with me. She's clinical. Diane's office was in downtown Minneapolis. Her conference room smelled like paper and coffee, and she listened without interrupting as I laid out the facts. Neighbor video of Elaine with unknown man, evidence of staging at my door, fraudulent credit line, recurring payments to a consulting firm, secret storage unit, garage pass, disinvite text, social media smear. When I finished, Diane folded her hands. "Mark," she said, "this is not just infidelity. This is strategy." I nodded. "That's what it feels like." "Good," she said, "because feelings don't win cases. Proof does." She outlined steps with the calm of someone who had seen every version of human behavior. File for legal separation immediately. Request temporary orders, custody schedule, exclusive use of the home, financial restraints. Contact the bank fraud department about the new credit line. Hire a forensic accountant. Do not engage publicly. Do not confront Elaine in any way that creates a reactive clip. I want you to be boring, Diane said. Boring is safe. Boring is credible. Boring wins. I signed her retainer. On the walk back to my car, I realized my hands were shaking, not from fear of divorce, but from the realization that I didn't know the woman I'd been married to for 2 decades. That week, Diane's forensic accountant, a quiet man named Calvin Reed, started pulling records. His first email arrived 2 days later. Mark, preliminary notes. 1. Ridgeway Consulting appears linked to a business registered to Trent Mallory, address matching a downtown garage complex. 2. Storage unit is in Elaine's name. Payments come from joint account. 3. New credit line opened online using device associated with your home IP. 4. Multiple password resets originated from a tablet on your home network. The tablet. Our kitchen iPad. The iPad Elaine insisted stayed logged into everything for convenience. Convenience had just tried to frame me. Calvin's second email arrived a week later and made my stomach drop again. Mark. Found lease payments, Riverbend Flats, $2,600 monthly. Started 6 months ago. Leaseholder, Elaine Dalton. Co-signer, Trent Mallory. Riverbend Flats was a luxury building in the North Loop, downtown, trendy, expensive. Elaine had an apartment, and she hadn't just been using it, she'd been paying for it with money that had my name on it. The bank fraud department confirmed the credit line wasn't initiated from my usual device signature. They placed a hold and opened an investigation. Elaine reacted the way Diane predicted. She escalated. 2 police officers showed up at my house on a Wednesday afternoon while I was helping Ben with homework. Mr. Dalton? One asked. We received a call about a domestic dispute. Ben's pencil froze. His face went pale. I kept my voice calm. I have an attorney, I said. I have documentation. Please come in. The officer stepped inside and glanced around. Clean home, quiet kid, no shouting, no chaos. Elaine wasn't there. Of course she wasn't. She wanted the report, not the reality. I showed the officers the court filing receipt, the disinvite text, and the video of Elaine staging at my door while her partner recorded. One officer's expression changed. Not dramatic, just more cautious. Sir, he said, do you want to file a report about this? I want it documented, I replied. That's all. They took notes. They left. Ben stared at me like I'd suddenly become a different person. Dad, he whispered, is Mom trying to get you arrested? I knelt beside him. Mom is making bad choices, I said, carefully. But you and Tess are safe. That's what matters. Ben swallowed hard. Do we have to choose? No, I said. Adults handle adult problems. You don't carry that. A week later, we had our temporary orders hearing. Elaine arrived in a fitted coat and the kind of makeup people wear when they want to look like a victim without looking messy. She spoke softly to the judge about financial abuse and fear. Diane didn't interrupt. She let Elaine talk. Then Diane stood and handed the judge a binder. Tab A, the disinvite text. Tab B, the list of direct payments for Ben's school, Tess's tuition, and household utilities. Proof I had not cut off the kids. Tab C, bank fraud investigation confirmation. Tab D, neighbor camera video of Elaine kissing a man and entering my garage at 11:37 p.m. Tab E, my doorbell camera video of Elaine staging at my door while the same man recorded. Tab F, proof of the downtown apartment lease tied to joint funds. The judge watched the videos in silence. Elaine's lawyer shifted in his chair. Elaine's face stayed composed until the second video, her own performance, played back without her control. Then her mouth tightened. The judge looked up. Mrs. Dalton, he said evenly, do you understand the consequences of filing false or misleading reports? Elaine's eyes widened slightly. I was scared, she said. The judge's tone didn't change. Fear does not excuse fabrication. Temporary orders were issued that day. Elaine tried to use Ben as a microphone. The parenting app was supposed to keep communication civil, but Elaine wrote messages like she was performing for a jury. Mark refused to let me pick up Ben for my scheduled time. Mark is unpredictable. Mark is punishing us financially. Diane told me to respond in one sentence every time. Pickup is at 6 p.m. per the temporary order. I will be there. Please confirm. Elaine would respond with paragraphs of emotion. I responded with timestamps. Meanwhile, Tess stopped being able to ignore the truth. One night in January, she found me in the kitchen staring at my phone. "You look like you've been hit," she said. I exhaled. "I found things," I admitted. "I didn't want you in the middle." Tess leaned against the counter. "Dad, I'm 19. I'm already in the middle." Mom's texting me screenshots of her own posts like they're evidence. My stomach tightened. What does she say? Tess's eyes hardened. She says you're controlling. She says you're trying to ruin her. She says if I'm loyal, I'll stand with her. I felt something snap into place, another layer of Elaine's strategy. She wasn't just framing me. She was recruiting. "Tess," I said quietly, "I'm not asking you to pick sides. I'm asking you to stay grounded. If you see something that worries you, tell me." Tess nodded once. Then she surprised me. "Ray showed me the video," she said. My mouth went dry. "He did?" "He asked if I knew the guy." Tess replied. "I didn't, but Dad, Mom didn't look scared. She looked happy." I swallowed hard. Tess stepped closer. "Are you okay?" I thought about all the times I'd told my kids, everything's fine, when it wasn't. "No," I said honestly. "But I will be." Tess's shoulders dropped like she'd been holding her breath. "Good," she said, "because Ben needs you steady." That was the word everyone kept circling. Steady. Elaine wanted me reactive. The court wanted me steady. My kids needed me steady. So I became steady on purpose. Exclusive use of the marital home to me during the case. A structured parenting schedule that protected Ben's routine. Financial restraints on both parties. No contact except through a monitored parenting app. And a warning, any further staged incidents would be treated seriously. Elaine walked out of the courtroom with her chin high. Her hands were shaking. After that, the story Elaine wanted to tell started collapsing under the weight of records. People noticed her posts got vague. Her friends stopped commenting so loudly. Dana stopped sharing. And then the biggest twist hit, quietly, in my email. Calvin wrote, "Mark, we found a second credit card opened in your name 9 months ago. Charges include Riverbend Flats deposits, furniture delivery, and a weekend hotel stay in Chicago. Elaine is primary user." 9 months. She'd been building a second household while living in mine. She hadn't just betrayed me emotionally, she'd tried to turn me into a villain so she could keep both lives without consequences. The settlement conference happened in late March. By then, the bank had confirmed the credit line was opened using credentials tied to the kitchen iPad and a device that belonged to Elaine. The investigation was ongoing, but the liability was being moved off my record. Elaine's lawyer offered a deal. She would keep her apartment, I would keep the house, we'd split assets, and she wanted generous spousal support. Because Mark controlled finances. Diane looked at me in the hallway outside the conference room. "We can fight," she said, "and we will win. But it will take time, and your son will live inside that war." I thought of Ben's face when the police stood in our kitchen. "I want the war to end," I said. So Diane negotiated. The final agreement was clean and brutal. Elaine received a limited settlement tied to employment and repayment conditions for any debts proven fraudulent. I kept the home. Ben's schedule stayed stable. Tess stayed out of court entirely. All child-related expenses were paid directly, school, medical, activities, with receipts. No cash transfers, no reimbursements, no leverage. Elaine signed. She didn't apologize. She didn't have to. Her signature was enough. In May, I got another text from Ray. "Coffee on my porch? You look like you could use it." I walked next door and sat in the morning sun with a mug of black coffee, listening to birds and distant lawnmowers. Ray nodded toward my house. "Quiet?" "Different kind of quiet," I said. Ray sipped. "She still posting?" "Sometimes," I said, "but fewer people care now." Ray stared at the street. "Truth takes longer than a performance," he said, "but it has better legs." I laughed once, small. "That's the most poetic thing you've ever said." Ray shrugged. "I watch a lot of court TV." Summer arrived. In July, Diane suggested therapy for Ben. Someone neutral. Someone trained to help a 16-year-old process the fact that one parent had tried to weaponize the other. Ben resisted at first. "I'm not broken," he said, arms crossed. "I know," I replied. "Therapy isn't for broken people. It's for people who don't want to carry adults' mess inside their chest forever." That landed. 2 sessions in, Ben came home quieter. One evening, he stood in the doorway of my office while I was paying bills. "Dad?" he said. I looked up. "Yeah?" Ben swallowed. "Mom keeps asking me what you say about her." I felt heat rise behind my eyes, anger, then something like grief. "What do you say?" I asked gently. Ben's jaw tightened. "I tell her I'm not her spy." Pride and sadness hit at once. "That's a good answer," I said. Ben hesitated. "She gets mad." "I know," I said, "but you're doing the right thing." He nodded slowly, then added, "She also told me you're going to take everything from her." I set my pen down. "Ben, I'm not trying to take everything," I said. "I'm trying to keep what's yours. Your home, your school, your peace." Ben's eyes flicked away, then back. "Did Mom really set you up?" I didn't want to call his mother a liar, but I wouldn't lie to him. "She tried to create a story," I said carefully. "A story where I looked dangerous so she could win. The cameras showed a different story." Ben let out a slow breath, like he'd been holding it for months. "I hate that," he said. "Me too," I replied. He stood there a moment longer, then said quietly, "Thanks for not yelling." I blinked. "What?" "That night," Ben said, "I heard banging. I thought you were going to explode. But you didn't." I swallowed around the lump in my throat. "I wanted to," I admitted, "but I didn't want you to see me like that." Ben nodded. "I'm glad." He turned to leave, then paused and looked back. "Can we have a normal weekend?" he asked. I smiled, small and real. "Yeah," I said, "we can." So we did. We grilled burgers. We watched a dumb action movie. Tess came over with cookies and rolled her eyes at the explosions. Ray waved from his driveway like a sentinel. And for a few hours, the house felt like a home again. Not the home Elaine wanted to film, the real one. Summer arrived. Ben adjusted slowly, awkward at first, then steadier as routines became predictable. Tess came home for weekends and stayed neutral, which was its own kind of support. Elaine moved apartments again, further downtown, and stopped trying to stage scenes. Without an audience, the work wasn't worth it. In October, I found a letter in my mailbox from the bank's fraud department. Case closed. Liability confirmed as unauthorized activity. Attached was a note. If I wished to pursue charges, they would cooperate. I read it twice. Then I filed it away. Not because Elaine deserved protection, because I was done letting her control my calendar through chaos. Thanksgiving came again. This time no one disinvited anyone. Ben and I made sweet potatoes with too many marshmallows. Tess rolled her eyes and then stole pieces off the tray. We went to my sister's house, not Dana's. The table was loud and imperfect and real. After dinner, Ben sat beside me on the couch, watching football with one eye and me with the other. "Dad," he said quietly, "why didn't you yell back at Mom that night at the door?" I thought about the camera clip, Elaine's practiced voice, the man's phone pointed at the porch light. "Because yelling was what she wanted," I said. "She wanted a clip where I looked like the monster she described." Ben nodded slowly. "So you didn't give it to her?" "Exactly," I said. "Sometimes the strongest move is not moving at all." Ben leaned back and watched the game, but I could tell he was thinking. Later that night, when we got home, I stood in the kitchen alone and looked at the counter where the old iPad used to sit. I'd wiped it clean months ago and put it in a drawer like a retired weapon. I opened my budget dashboard. The line items were boring now. Mortgage, utilities, school expenses, groceries. No storage unit. No downtown apartment. No consulting invoices. No surprise credit lines. Just the truth. And after a year of staged scenes, the truth felt like the best kind of quiet. Love, I realized, is not what someone says on camera. Love is what remains when the camera is off. Elaine built a story where I was the villain and she was the victim, because stories are easier than accountability. Ray's camera gave me the first proof. My own discipline kept me from becoming her proof. And in the end, the only thing I had to cancel was the assumption that marriage automatically means loyalty. It doesn't. Loyalty is earned in actions. And sometimes, the safest way to win is to be so calm that no one can edit you into a monster. End.